Microplastics, those tiny particles less than 5 millimeters in size, have become an alarming issue as they continue to infiltrate our food supply. This growing problem isn't just about the environment, it's about the potential risks to our health as these particles make their way into our bodies through everyday foods. Did you know that an average person could be ingesting as much as 5 grams of microplastics each week, the equivalent of a credit card? Left unchecked, microplastic exposure could lead to unknown long-term health consequences, including inflammation and cellular damage. In this video, we'll break down the common foods most likely to contain microplastics and offer practical steps to help you minimize your exposure. How much do you know about what's on your plate? Stick around, you might be surprised by which everyday foods could be adding hidden plastic to your diet. Check out the full details by visiting the link in the description. But before we go any further, yes, this is an AI voice, but a real person wrote this. I earned my financial freedom, and I'm not doing this for money. I don't like narrating videos, so I use an AI voice. Ignore that the voice is AI. The video is worth it. Number 1. Shellfish. Shellfish like mussels, oysters, and clams are some of the most affected foods when it comes to microplastics. As filter feeders, they draw in large volumes of water to extract their nutrients, which inadvertently means they also collect microplastics. The particles can then accumulate in their tissues, which we consume directly. In areas with higher levels of water pollution, the concentration of microplastics in shellfish tends to be even greater. Since these creatures are often consumed whole, including their digestive systems, there's a higher risk of ingesting these particles when eating shellfish compared to other seafood. Number 2. Fish. Fish are another significant source of microplastic contamination. While the particles primarily collect in their guts, studies have found traces of microplastics in the flesh of some species, especially those lower on the food chain. Fish like sardines, anchovies, and mackerel tend to have higher concentrations due to their feeding habits. Microplastics enter marine environments through various routes, such as wastewater, runoff, and debris, eventually making their way into the food chain. As these fish are consumed by larger species and ultimately humans, microplastics can accumulate, increasing our exposure levels. Number 3. Salt. Sea salt is a common household ingredient that surprisingly contains a substantial amount of microplastics. Due to its production process, where seawater is evaporated, the residual salt often carries particles suspended in the water. According to scientific reports, microplastics have been found in various brands of table salt worldwide, indicating a widespread issue. The presence of these particles in salt is concerning because it is a product used daily in cooking and food preparation. Even though the concentration might seem low, the cumulative effect over time can lead to significant exposure to microplastics. Number 4. Bottled water. Bottled water has been shown to contain microplastics at levels significantly higher than those found in tap water. Research suggests that the bottling process itself, as well as the plastic containers, can introduce these tiny particles into the water. This has raised concerns about the safety and health implications of consuming bottled water regularly. Switching to tap water, where feasible, may reduce exposure to microplastics. Some regions have implemented stricter water quality controls, which can make tap water a safer and more sustainable option compared to bottled water. Number 5. Beer. Several studies have detected microplastics in beer, especially those brewed using water sources that are more prone to contamination. During the brewing process, any microplastics present in the water can easily make their way into the final product. The particles may also come from packaging or filtration systems used during production. The presence of microplastics in beer suggests that even processed foods and beverages can be affected. It highlights the broader issue of environmental contamination impacting a variety of consumable goods, not just seafood or directly exposed items. Number 6. Honey. Honey has surprisingly been identified as a food that can contain microplastics. The particles might originate from airborne pollutants or contaminated nectar that bees collect. Since bees can travel vast distances, the risk of collecting microplastic-laden substances is higher in areas near urban or industrial environments. This finding is particularly concerning for people who consume honey regularly, believing it to be a natural and healthy sweetener. Even in organic honey, microplastics have been detected, showing the far-reaching impact of environmental pollution. Number 7. Rice. Recent studies have revealed that rice, particularly when packaged in plastic, can be a source of microplastics. These particles can be introduced during the packaging process or even through the use of plastic in agricultural practices. Instant rice varieties seem to have a higher concentration due to the additional processing steps. Consuming rice with microplastics highlights the challenge of eliminating these particles from daily staples. Since rice is a global dietary essential, the risk of exposure to microplastics through this grain affects a significant portion of the population. Number 8. Canned foods. Canned foods often contain microplastics, not necessarily because of the food itself, but due to the packaging materials. The plastic linings used in cans can degrade over time, leaching particles into the contents. Foods with high acidity, like tomatoes, can cause the plastic lining to break down more rapidly. This means that even when consuming otherwise fresh or minimally processed foods, if they come from a can, they might still be contaminated with microplastics. It highlights the importance of considering packaging in efforts to reduce plastic exposure. Number 9. Meat and dairy. Studies have suggested that microplastics can also be present in meat and dairy products. This contamination primarily happens when livestock ingest plastic particles present in their feed or water sources. Over time, these particles accumulate in their tissues and milk, eventually making their way into our diet. While the levels found in meat and dairy are generally lower compared to seafood, the presence of microplastics in these foods is still a concern due to the volume of these products consumed globally. It emphasizes the need for better feed management and clean water sources for livestock. Number 10. Tea bags. Plastic tea bags can release billions of microplastics into your cup when exposed to hot water. Traditional paper tea bags often contain a small amount of plastic used to seal the bag, but fully plastic tea bags are even more problematic. The heat causes these particles to break down and disperse into the tea. Opting for loose-leaf tea or brands that use biodegradable bags can significantly reduce your exposure to these particles. This small change in habit can make a big difference in limiting daily intake of microplastics. Number 11. Fruits and vegetables. While fruits and vegetables might seem like unlikely candidates for microplastic contamination, they can absorb these particles through the soil and water they grow in. Microplastics have been detected in crops irrigated with contaminated water, showing that even plant-based foods are not entirely safe. This issue underscores the importance of clean irrigation practices and soil health to prevent microplastic contamination in our produce. Even organic and locally grown options can be affected if the surrounding environment is polluted. Number 12. Sugar. Refined sugar has been found to contain microplastics, possibly introduced during processing or packaging. Since sugar is often stored in plastic containers or bags, these materials can degrade over time, allowing small particles to mix with the sugar crystals. As sugar is a common ingredient in many foods and beverages, the potential exposure to microplastics through this source is significant. Reducing processed sugar intake could also reduce exposure to these particles. Number 13. Processed foods. Processed foods, including snacks and ready-to-eat meals, often have higher levels of microplastics due to their extensive handling and packaging processes. The more a food product is handled and processed, the greater the chance of contamination with microplastics. This finding indicates that a diet heavy in processed foods might not only be less nutritious, but also a significant contributor to microplastic intake. Choosing whole foods and cooking meals at home can help lower the risk. Number 14. Soft drinks. Soft drinks, especially those bottled in plastic, are another source of microplastic contamination. The carbonation process, combined with the use of plastic bottles, can increase the release of microplastics into the drink. Considering the popularity of these beverages, this is a noteworthy concern. Switching to drinks that come in glass containers or those that are homemade can be a way to reduce this type of exposure. Number 15. Frozen foods. Frozen foods packaged in plastic bags or containers often carry microplastics. The low temperatures do not prevent the degradation of plastic, which can still leach tiny particles into the food over time. Choosing fresh over frozen can help limit exposure to microplastics, although it's not always feasible depending on dietary needs and food availability. Number 16. Breaded shrimp. breaded shrimp holds the top spot when it comes to microplastic contamination, with over 300 microplastic particles per serving. These tiny particles make their way into the shrimp as they filter feed, meaning they ingest whatever is in the water around them, including microplastics. Once breaded and processed, the number of particles only increases, making this a significant concern for those who enjoy shrimp regularly. The high levels of microplastics found in breaded shrimp raise red flags for health-conscious individuals. Number 17. White Gulf shrimp. White Gulf shrimp is another seafood item with potential for microplastic contamination. While it doesn't top the list like breaded shrimp, it still carries a risk due to the waters these shrimps are harvested from. The Gulf is known to have areas with higher pollution, which means shrimp from this region can contain higher levels of microplastics. Given that shrimp are filter feeders, they are particularly vulnerable to ingesting microplastics, which then accumulate in their bodies. Number 18. Flour. Microplastics have been found in flour, likely introduced through the packaging or during the milling process. Flour stored in plastic sacks is more prone to contamination, affecting baked goods and other food items that use flour as a base ingredient. Switching to flour brands that use sustainable or paper packaging could help reduce exposure to these particles in everyday baking and cooking. Number 19. Seaweed. Seaweed products, which are gaining popularity due to their nutritional benefits, can also contain microplastics. Since seaweed grows in marine environments, it is directly exposed to any plastic pollution in the water. Consumers seeking to benefit from seaweed's health properties should be mindful of the source, as some regions have cleaner waters than others, affecting the quality of the product. Number 20. Vegetable oils. Cooking oils, such as vegetable or canola oil, have been found to contain traces of microplastics. These particles can enter the oil during production or packaging, especially if plastic is involved in the extraction or storage process. Switching to oils that come in glass bottles can help minimize the risk of microplastic contamination, ensuring a safer choice for cooking and food preparation. Number 21. Pasta. Dried pasta packaged in plastic often shows signs of microplastic contamination. During the boiling process, particles can be released into the water, which then gets absorbed into the pasta. Opting for brands that use paper-based or eco-friendly packaging can help reduce exposure to microplastics while still enjoying a favorite meal. Number 22. Bread. Bread, especially varieties sold in plastic packaging, can be a hidden source of microplastics. During the baking process, if the dough is exposed to plastic-lined surfaces or tools, there is a risk of particles transferring to the final product. This contamination risk increases when bread is stored or wrapped in plastic, as microscopic fragments can leach into the loaf. Choosing freshly baked bread from local bakeries that use paper or cloth bags can reduce exposure. These alternatives help limit contact with plastic and provide a fresher, more natural product, contributing to a cleaner, microplastic-free diet. Number 23. Spices. Spices are a surprising carrier of microplastics due to their fine, powdery texture and the common use of plastic packaging. During grinding or bottling, spices can come into contact with plastic particles, leading to contamination. The risk is higher for spices stored in plastic jars, as they can pick up microplastic particles that mix with the seasoning. Opting for spices sold in glass containers or buying whole spices to grind at home can help reduce the presence of microplastics. This approach not only enhances flavor, but also supports a more sustainable way of seasoning your food. Number 24. Ice cream. Ice cream, especially when packaged in plastic containers, can be a source of microplastic contamination. During manufacturing and storage, the combination of low temperatures and plastic materials can allow tiny particles to leach into the product. Even the plastic-coated wrappers of ice cream bars can contribute to this issue. Switching to brands that offer ice cream in paper or eco-friendly packaging can significantly reduce the intake of microplastics. Choosing locally made ice cream served in biodegradable packaging is another way to avoid this hidden source of contamination. Number 25. Vinegar. Vinegar often absorbs microplastics through its interaction with plastic containers or caps during storage and transportation. Its acidic nature can cause the plastic to degrade more quickly, increasing the release of tiny particles into the liquid. This is especially true for vinegars stored in clear plastic bottles, which are more prone to leaching. Opting for vinegar sold in glass bottles helps reduce this risk, ensuring a cleaner and safer condiment for cooking and salad dressings. Glass not only preserves the quality of vinegar, but also prevents the unwanted addition of microplastics. Number 26. Cocoa powder. Cocoa powder used for baking or hot beverages can be exposed to microplastics through its packaging. The fine nature of cocoa powder makes it easier for tiny plastic particles to mix with the product during storage. If the cocoa is processed in facilities with plastic equipment, the risk of contamination further increases. Selecting cocoa powders packaged in metal tins or eco-friendly materials can help limit exposure. This simple change supports a more sustainable kitchen while ensuring that your sweet treats remain free of microplastics. Number 27. Peanut butter. Peanut butter, often stored in plastic jars, can accumulate microplastics during both production and storage. The oils in peanut butter can interact with plastic containers, causing tiny particles to break off and mix with the spread. This interaction poses a concern for those who consume peanut butter regularly as a source of protein. Switching to peanut butter brands that use glass jars can minimize this risk. Not only does glass prevent plastic leaching, but it also keeps the peanut butter fresher for longer, maintaining its taste and texture. Number 28. Dried fruit. Dried fruit can contain microplastics due to packaging and handling methods. These fruits are often stored in plastic bags, where they can pick up small particles during transportation and storage. The longer the dried fruit sits in these containers, the more likely it is to become contaminated with microplastics. Choosing dried fruits sold in bulk from stores that offer paper bags or bringing your own reusable containers can help limit this exposure. Fresh fruit is also a great alternative when possible, providing a more natural option without the risk of plastic contamination. Taking charge of what's on your plate. Microplastics have infiltrated much of what we eat, starting with seafood and bottled drinks to even the most unsuspecting foods like rice and honey. While completely avoiding microplastics might be a challenge, making informed choices about what you consume and how it's packaged can drastically cut down your exposure. By focusing on fresh, locally sourced products and paying attention to how foods are processed and stored, you can protect your health and support a cleaner planet. Let's turn knowledge into action and start making food decisions that benefit both our well-being and the environment. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget the link in the description.